everyone, and welcome to FEA 415 Editing 1 at Cal State Long Beach. I'm just going to start off by showing you the Premiere interface. As you can see, I am already in Premiere. I have an account, and we're going to go ahead and start a new project. Now, with Premiere, as every Adobe product, you can do tasks many different ways. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a new project. And as you can see, Premiere has already some clips ready to go for me. But the first thing I want to be very careful of is to look here at this project location field. And I want to make sure that I'm saving this project into the right place. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to choose location. And as you may have noticed, if you've looked through all of the lessons and pages in Module 1 and started to look in Module 2, you'll notice that you want to have an external hard drive. Never save your assets into the internal hard drive of your computer. And this is my external hard drive, Gen Orange. I'm going to click here. I'm going to be very organized here. And I'm going to scroll down to Cal State Long Beach, to the correct folder. And I'm going to go over to Fall 2023, Section 3. This is the section I'm using to demo this for all sections for this semester. And per Susan Bloom's lovely digital asset management hand-up, you'll notice I have a kids video mashup top folder, which is our first project. So I'm going to click on that folder, and you'll notice here that I have organized everything very, very neatly. Inside my kids video mashup top folder, I have a 01 KVM for kids video mashup media. This is where all of our assets are, the 4 clips that we'll be working with tonight. And then for 02 KVM Premiere Profiles, this is where I want to save my Premiere project. You'll notice I also have a 03 KVM sound effects, 04 KVM graphics, 05 KVM music, 06 KVM documents. This could be like scripts, any kind of documents I have related to the project. 07 KVM exports. So this is where I will save my exports. But for now, I'm just going to save my project into this folder. Now, all of you should already make a really nice, organized place to save your projects just as I have. Notice, once again, I'm going into my Cal State Long Beach folder, Section 3, Kids Video Mashup Top folder. That's the name of the folder that you're going to use for any of your projects. And you're going to save all of your Premiere project files into this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and choose. And now you can see here by this breadcrumb field that this is in the right place. Okay, if I just hold on here, you'll see that I'm saving this into the right place. I know where it is. It's in my external hard drive. I don't have to worry if I'm moving from computer to computer. I will always be able to keep it in that external hard drive that I can take other places. Okay, now the project name, as you may have noticed from Susan's handout, is my last name first, Penton, my first name second, and then kids video mashup, kind of all one word with caps, and then the date. Now today is not quite the 1st of September, but you'll notice I have the year first, then 0901 for September 1st. This is a great way to name your files, and if you don't have to put your name first because you're not doing this for a university and turning this into a professor, you could always put the year first before your name, and then that way you can have everything organized by date. Okay, but in this case, for this class, I want you to put your name first, just as I have. So here you can see last name first, then first name, the name of the video project, and then the date. Okay. Now, as far as all of this information, you could make sure that you have everything set up properly. I'm going to actually go ahead and set it up in Premiere so we can just see it a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and create. Once I do that, I can see the Premiere interface, as you can see here. And this is the name of my project. Okay, you'll see that it says drop media here to create a sequence. We're going to be a little more organized than that. Premiere allows you to be a little disorganized, to be honest. Avid is better at keeping people organized. But Premiere is very user-friendly, which is a nice thing. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is we want to set up our bins properly so we don't have a big mess. We want to be organized so that we can work more efficiently. Now, if I go back to Safari and I go to the digital asset management guide that Susan provided with us, you'll notice that when I'm in Premiere, I want things to be set up similarly to my folder on my folders on my external hard drive. So I have 00 sequences, 01 scenes, 02 sound, 03 graphics, and music, sorry, that's spelled wrong, titles, all kinds of things that are really helpful for how you want to set things up. So now in our case, for our kids video mashup, we might go a little more simply than this, than Susan's example. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into Premiere, and I am going to make a new bin, and this is the new bin little icon here. There are other ways you can make bins, but I'm going to call this first one 00 sequences. Now, why am I calling that 00 sequences? The reason is because my sequences are my timeline. My sequences are the Academy Award winning film that I'm going to export. Okay, and so they're the most important thing, and that's why they're 00, so they pop to the top. Another way I can make a new bin is I could go File, New Bin, or Command B. I could also right click. Let me just show you another way. Right click and New Bin again. So those are quite a few different ways that I can make bins. I'll go ahead and name this bin. If you kind of click on it, turning it blue, you can rename it. Or you can right click and choose Rename Bin. I'm going to go ahead and 01, and we'll call this, let's take a look at Susan's guide again. So she's got scenes first, then sound, graphics. Let's go ahead and I'll call this, I could call this 01, and then I could call this footage. I'll put my media here. I could call it media as well. I'm going to go ahead and call this 02 SFX for sound effects. And let's make another one, Command B, or Control B on a PC. 03. We'll call this graphics, just in case. Graphics, GX. Oops. And let's do a 04 music, MX. And let's do a 05 titles. We definitely want titles. And I'm going to go titles and credits. And that will be good for now. I think we're good. Notice here, if we look at her setup, we don't have exports because exports go into the external folders in my external hard drive. Okay, so this should be a pretty good way to set up. If I need to make more bins, I always can. And I can rename these bins. I can change the order, the number order. This is not going to affect anything in my actual external hard drive. Let's go look at that again. Note the external hard drive is where and you'll see here is my actual project that I named right over here. And you'll notice it's a .proj, a Premiere project. If I go back over here to media, you'll see that 01 kVm media is just all of my clips living in my external hard drive, not clogging up my computer. Okay, important to note. Okay, and nothing I do here is going to damage these. If I start renaming things and moving things and deleting things in my external hard drive, that will be very problematic for Premiere. So you really want to set everything up in your external hard drive before you start working in Premiere. Okay, very important. If you mess things up, you're going to have to locate your media. It's not that hard in Premiere, but it's really a pain because it's going to show that your media is offline and it's not going to be fun. Okay, so I'm going to go back into Premiere. I'm going to go into my footage bin. And you'll notice that when I go in there, it tabs right here. Okay, and then I can click right back to my project. I could even do this. I can have my sound effects bin here, go back to the actual project, click on graphics, and as you can see, they're tabbing. These bins are tabbing, so I can easily go back and forth to these bins. Obviously nothing's in them yet, but once I start filling them up, it's going to be really helpful to have them tabbed. Now, how do I set this up to make sure that these tab? What I do is I will go to Premiere Preferences, I believe it's General, and I'm going to set up my bins all to open new tab for double click plus Command and plus Option. Make sure everything just opens in a new tab. That's a very efficient, clean way of operating in Premiere. So I'm going to, and as you can see, these are already set up nicely that way. Click on OK. And let's go back to footage. This is where I'm going to import my footage. Okay, so I make sure I'm in the footage bin, and I can right click or on a Mac control click, go ahead and import. You can also hit Command I, and you can drag, although that can be a little problematic for the operating system. So I've heard that may have been fixed, but go ahead and just hit Command I for now, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to go scroll over here. Once again, dragging can work. I sometimes feel a little hesitant to do that just because I've heard it can be problematic. All right, go into the correct folder, go to FA Fall of 2023, Section 3, top folder, media, and I'm going to select all of these by hitting Command A, or on a PC, Control A, if it will work. Let's see. It doesn't seem to want to work with me right now. Okay, so I just hit Shift. I clicked on the first one, Shift clicked it on the last one. Command A should have worked, but I'm going to go ahead and import. And it's a quick process in Premiere because it's not a true import. That's something we'll cover that you'll learn about when you study Avid, if you study Avid. But as you can see, everything's come in very nicely. Now I'm going to go back to, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to my sequences bin. As you can see, I'm starting to populate my bins. And in my sequences bin, I'm going to double click to make sure I'm in it. And now you can see it's empty, I'm in it. I'm going to make a new sequence. Now in Premiere, making a sequence is a few more steps than it would be in a program such as Avid, okay? But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click New Item, Sequence ... And remember, a sequence is your timeline. It's your Academy Award-winning film that you'll ultimately export. And I say Academy Award-winning because I have faith in you that you're going to make amazing videos. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Sequence. Now here, we're going to go to Settings, Editing Mode. We're going to change to a very common one used in universities. And I'm going to go to Custom. So I scrolled all the way up to Custom. We're going to set up our time base to be a very common one, which is 23.976 frames per second. Frame size is going to be 1920 by 1080. Square pixels, no fields, progressive scan. 23.976 frame FPS time code. REC 709, that is good, a color space that's good for computers and projecting. And then all of these, we're going to leave them at their defaults. Sequence. Now I can name my sequence. And if I still have my name copied into my clipboard, and I do, I can just hit Command V, and notice I'm naming the sequence the same name as the project. This is going to come in handy when I export. I won't have to keep making up a name, but I'm going to put an underscore V1 for version 1. I'm going to click on OK. All right. Now you'll notice that this empty area that was saying to drop media to create a sequence has a sequence in it ready for my project. One thing that's really important when you're working in Premiere is to notice these blue squares. They should be, they're very important because they're called track selectors, and when you go with a clip that you're ready to put into your timeline, you turn those track selectors on. If they're off, you won't be able to put anything into your timeline. But if you want to put something on a different track, you will move the track selectors. And I'll show you how this works. But let's just go back for a moment and look at how things are organized. So once again, now you can see that I have a sequence in the sequences bin and footage in my footage bin. And then I have these empty bins, which I could always put more things into. But take a note of something. If I wanted to look at this larger, I would hit the tilde button, which is just below escape on my keyboard. It's like a little squiggly line. I'm just going to hit it and you'll see what happens. It's called the tilde button, just below escape on your keyboard. And you'll see that now I've enlarged my project panel, which is what has all of my assets in it, my footage, my sequences, any kind of titles and credits that I might make, that kind of stuff. Okay, and if I want to make it smaller again, I just hit the tilde button again, and this project panel is now small again. The nice thing here is I can close my sequences bin, close my footage bin, etc., and everything is nice and neat. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure I'm in my project, and you'll notice, my sequence. You'll notice that the icons reflect what you're working with. This is a sequence. It looks like a tiny miniature sequence icon. You'll see there's a little tiny playhead, which looks like this playhead here. And there are 2 video tracks and 1 audio track. Below that, you see your footage, right? The footage here, I'm going to double click on Jinxie Jenkins, and you'll notice that it populates into what's called my source monitor. And you'll notice that because it has video, it has this little purplish sprocket hole film strip. And because it has audio, it shows a waveform in green. Okay, so if it were just video, you would not see this green part of the icon. If it were just audio, you would only see the green. You wouldn't see the purplish sprocket hole little icon there. Okay, so now I've loaded this clip into my source monitor, and let's think about it like this. If you were making a salad, right? My salad analogy, I love it. My students really understand how to use, linear non-linear editing software when I give them this analogy. Let's just think of this. If you made a salad, you would not just throw all your vegetables into a bowl and try to chop them in the salad bowl. Okay, this timeline is like the salad bowl. You would first chop up, say, cucumbers on a cutting board, which is your source monitor, and once they were cut properly, you would dump them into the salad bowl, which is your timeline and then your final video. Okay, so for example, if I just wanted to take a part of Jinxie Jenkins and Lucky Lou, I would cut here. So I'm going to scroll through this, and I want to make sure, watch every clip as much as you can in its entirety beforehand so you can get a good idea of what you have. As you know, you've already watched the Scary Mary video and the Shining spoof, which are here. Let's just go over to Safari, and we'll go over here. As you can see, here's the assignment. Scary Mary, watch this, watch the Shining spoof. You're going to make a spoof like this, okay? And as I said, you can either make a spoof that, you know, is really cute and fun by taking one of these movies and completely changing its meaning, changing its genre by using really cool sound effects, by cutting the right clips into place, by adding intertitles, things like that. You can do some really, really cool things. An intertitle is just words between clips, okay? Okay, or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can just do a mashup where you basically combine one or more of these videos into an artistic mashup. Okay, using your own title, music and titles, and you know, just get really have fun and be creative with it. I've seen students make amazing videos out of these 4 videos that I have provided for you, which are only for educational purposes. Okay, so watch these again. Scary Mary and The Shining spoof, where the meanings of the movies are changed based on the way these people cut them up. And then go ahead and see if you can make a really cool spoof trailer out of the videos I've provided. So I'm going to go back here, back to Premiere, and you'll see here that let's say I want to take part of, you know, this movie. Okay, so maybe I want to just show a little bit of this part where it's raining on Jinxie Jenkins, who lives in apartment number 13, which of course is bad. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so let's go ahead. He lives in apartment 13, which is of course considered bad luck. Now, I can go ahead and I can use my index finger, my middle finger, and my ring finger on my right hand to hit J, K, and L. So let's watch this. If I hit L, it plays forward. If I hit K, the source monitor pauses. If I hit J, it plays backwards. So that's really helpful. And if I hit L twice, Premiere will play double speed. See that? And if I hit K and L together, hold them down, Premiere's going to play slowly. Okay? Hold down J and K together, backwards, slowly. So J, K, L are your friends. Okay? J, K, and L are your friends for navigating in Premiere. Okay? Now, if you want to go frame by frame, just to hit the arrows on your keyboard. So right now, I'm going back frame by frame, as you can see by my time code here. This is called time code. And I'm now at 11 frames. So if I back up, I am backing up to here. This is now 9, let's see, I'm at 13 seconds, 23 frames. Okay, and if I want to go right to the beginning of this, maybe just be after the other scene, like right about here. Okay, I'm at 12 seconds, 10 frames. This number is minutes, this number is hours, and this whole thing is called time code. So now my playhead is at 12 seconds, 10 frames, and I'm going to mark in, meaning I'm going to cut everything off before the playhead. So I'm going to hit I for in point. Okay, and you'll notice it's made an in point here. And now I press L to play forward. I'm going to play it faster. And of course, Lucky Lou lives in apartment number 7, which is pretty funny. Okay, so now let's say this is the only part I want. So let's see if he walks away. All right, so this is the part of the scene that I want. So I am now going to hit O to mark out. And only this little section of the entire video is going to go into my timeline. Okay, but I have my track selector set up so that V1 and A1, which are video track 1 in the source clip and audio track 1 in the source clip, are patched to go onto video track 1 of the program monitor. This is the program monitor or timeline, and audio 1 track of the program monitor or timeline. I have my playhead in the beginning here, and now all I have to do is hit overwrite, or the period, or insert, or the comma. Now, if you taught yourself how to use Premiere, you might have just started dragging everything straight from your project panel right into your timeline. That's a very sloppy way to go. Do not do that. Remember the salad bowl analogy. This is your cutting board. You chop up things here, then you dump them into the salad bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the period for overwrite, because it really doesn't matter if my playhead's in the beginning, if I overwrite or insert, okay? So let's take a look here. Now, if I play this, there we go. Everything's looking really nice. All right. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this is looking like the same size, but let's just take a look at my metadata. If I scroll here, you'll notice that all my clips are different speeds. So this frame rate, which is very important for my sequence, I set it up to be 23.976 frames per second because that is what is really liked in the industry. But these clips are, this one's 24, this one's 25, the Bugs Bunny one. Laurel and Hardy is 29.976. And let's look at their sizes. Let's look at their frame sizes. If I scroll over here and I go to, let's see, did I miss it? I might have missed it. Oh yeah, video info. You'll notice that Jinxie Jenkins is actually much smaller than my sequence. But the reason Jinxie Jenkins is coming in the right size is because I set everything up to do that. So if we go back here and we go into, I think it would be project settings if I'm not mistaken, and I go to general. You know, it might not be there actually. Let's go to preferences and media, I believe it is. Let's see. Preferences media. Yes, my media scaling is set to frame size, which means that no matter how small my clip is or how big it is, it's going to fit the sequence settings. And my sequence settings were 1920 pixels, which are little squares that make up the video, by 1080. And so if I were to turn this off and go to none, and by the way, you don't want scale, you want set to. If I turn this to none and then I do this again, I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to put my playhead at the end by hitting the down arrow, putting it at the end of this clip that I just brought in. Watch what happens next time I bring in a clip. So maybe I want to cut to somewhere else where maybe they meet each other, right? Where they crash into each other. So I'm just scrubbing here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit I to mark in. Okay, so maybe right at that point, I hit the O button and mark out. And I want to put this one in. And so I'm still at the end, my playhead's still at the end of the video. So I'm going to go ahead and I can hit the insert because it doesn't really matter. And now you'll see that if I play this, okay, this next clip that I put in is much smaller because it's only 640 pixels by 360 pixels. Okay, So I can right click on the clip. And by the way, I can also, if it's too small, I can use the zoom bar to make it bigger right here, this zoom bar at the bottom. And I can go ahead here and I can scroll down. So I right click to get this contextual menu and I can set to frame size. But I don't want to have to do that with all of my clips, right? So I'm going to go back here into Premiere Pro, and I'm on a Mac, so preferences are in Premiere Pro. If you're on a PC, you have to go to File to go to Preferences. And I'm going to go back to Media so that from now on, all of my clips are going to come in set to frame size already, so I don't have to worry about making them bigger. Now, what happens if I wanted to put something in the beginning? Okay, so let's say I want to have some sort of introduction, like I want to have the Bugs Bunny Merry Melodies introduction come in the beginning. All right, so I'm going to mark this in right in the beginning by hitting I, right click, I'm sorry, hit L. Okay. Okay, and once again, I can hit my back arrow to go right to, the part before we see Elmer Fudd come in. I'm going to hit out, O for out point. And now things do matter. I could overwrite, and if I do that, it's going to cover up part of this scene where we see the doors before Jinxie, Jenkins, and Lucky Luke come out. So if I hit overwrite, it cut out a big part of what I had in the timeline already. It covered up what it needed to fit in Bugs Bunny. So now I have this kind of a thing. And then this. So overwrite, when you're putting things into the scene and you don't want to cover them up, overwrite doesn't work. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. And instead, I still have the Bugs Bunny beginning marked in and out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do an insert, or comma is your keyboard shortcut. And when I do that, it pushes over what's in the beginning so that I can now have the beginning that I wanted rather than it being covered up by the Bugs Bunny cartoon. Now, there are other ways to edit. You could, let's scroll over here. If for some reason you wanted to add sound effects or you wanted to do something like that, like maybe I want just the sound from Laurel and Hardy, for example. Okay, so I could bring that in, and let's just listen to it for a second. So let's say I wanted that, just that sound. I don't want to cover up the sound on A1. So I put the A1 from Laurel and Hardy down to A2, turn off the A1 in the program monitor. So this is source monitor right here. This side is program monitor right here. And I'm going to turn off the video. So now, let's say I wanted this part. So I'll go a little bit further just so you can see. No, actually I have to go to the beginning. So mark in, hit L. Okay, so maybe I'll go back a little bit. Okay, so let's say instead of the music that's in here, or let's say I want both sounds, I probably wouldn't, but let's say I do, like maybe instead of this being music, maybe this was the sound of the door closing. Okay, so I want to put it on A2. Let's say I wanted it to occur right here. So I put my playhead right here. Notice I don't want video, I just want this audio, right? And I think about here, I wanted to mark out. It was very short. And I can zoom in here too, so I can see that. Okay. And I could just drag the audio, but if I want to be really more efficient and methodical, I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts. And whenever you're adding sound, you hit overwrite. So watch what happens. A1, which is just always going to be A1 on the left because it's just the source footage, is going to now go to A2. So I'm going to overwrite that. And there it is. And now I could even mute this by oh, there are a few things I could do, but if I want to mute audio 1 here, now when I am looking at Jinxie Jenkins and Lucky Lou, I will hear the sound of Laurel and Hardy. Okay? Okay, I think that's enough for now because I don't want this video to be too long, and I'll continue where I left off in the next video. But this is how to start building up your video. And it's great. You can do all kinds of wonderful things and create something amazing like what you saw in Scary Mary or The Shining. All right, so let me turn this off and we'll continue from here. But I'd like you to just get started and then I'll make another video for us. Thanks. Bye.